Kate walked toward the pickup zone with the data that would save millions of human lives. But the information on her storage device was nothing compared to the knowledge she carried in her mind. She knew the truth about humanity's place in the galaxy. She knew about the tests that were waiting for her people on other worlds. She knew about the incredible future that was possible if humans proved themselves worthy. The journey to the pickup zone should have taken a full day of hard walking through dangerous jungle. Instead, it took Kate only 4 hours. The creatures of Zarian Prime had cleared a path for her. They had removed every obstacle and every danger. Trees had been cut down to make a straight road. Rivers had been bridged with fallen logs. Even the poisonous plants had been moved out of her way. As Kate walked, she was escorted by an army of the planet's deadliest predators. Shadow cats walked beside her like loyal pets. Metal spiders hung from the trees above her head like a protective canopy. Void stalkers appeared and disappeared around her, making sure nothing could threaten her journey. The creatures did not speak to her again, but Kate could feel their thoughts. They were proud of her. They were excited that their long wait was finally over. For millions of years they had been testing species and watching them fail. Now they had finally found a species that might be worthy of the builder's legacy. Kate reached the pickup zone 2 hours before the rescue ship was scheduled to arrive. She sat down on a rock and looked back at the jungle she had just walked through. 3 days ago, this had been the most dangerous place in the galaxy. Now it felt like home. The creatures gathered around her one last time. The voice of their collective mind spoke to her. "You must prepare your people," they said. "The tests will begin soon on other worlds. Your species will face trials that will make Zarian Prime look easy. Some humans will pass these tests. Others will fail. The future of your people depends on how many succeed." "How will I convince them?" Kate asked. "How do I tell people that we are being tested by ancient aliens? How do I make them believe something so impossible?" "You do not need to convince everyone," the voices said. "You only need to find the ones who are ready. The ones who have the same strength you have. The same determination. The same refusal to give up." Kate nodded. She understood. She would not be trying to change all of humanity. She would be looking for the special ones. The ones who could pass the tests like she had. The rescue ship appeared in the sky above her. It was a military transport, heavily armed and built for dangerous missions. As it landed, Kate could see the worried faces of the crew through the windows. They had expected to find nothing but her bones. Captain Murphy jumped out of the ship before it finished landing. He was a tall man with scars on his face from a dozen battles. He had volunteered to come get Kate because he did not believe in leaving soldiers behind. "Kate!" he shouted as he ran toward her. "Thank God you are alive. We thought for sure you were dead. No one has ever survived 3 days on this planet." Kate stood up and smiled. "I'm fine, Captain. I have the data we came for." Murphy stopped running and stared at her. Kate looked completely healthy. She was not injured. She was not starving. She did not even look tired. She looked like she had just taken a pleasant walk through a peaceful forest. "How?" Murphy asked. "How are you alive? How did you survive the creatures? How did you cross 300 miles of Deathworld without getting hurt?" Kate looked back at the jungle where hundreds of eyes were watching her from the shadows. The creatures were staying hidden from the rescue team, but they were there. They were making sure she got safely off the planet. "I made friends," Kate said simply. Murphy looked confused, but he did not ask more questions. He was a good soldier and he knew when not to push for answers. "Did you get the data about the plague?" Kate handed him the storage device. "Everything. It's here, the cure, the cause, everything. The colonies will be saved." Murphy took the device and put it in a secure case. "Command is going to want to know how you did this. They are going to want a full report." "I will give them a report," Kate said. "But first, I need to speak with General Adams. What I have to tell him will change everything." They boarded the rescue ship and lifted off from Zarian Prime. As the planet fell away below them, Kate watched through the window. The jungle looked peaceful from up here. It was hard to believe that it was the most dangerous place in the galaxy, but Kate knew the truth. Zarian Prime was not just a death world. It was a teacher, it was a guardian, it was the first step on a path that would either make humanity great or destroy them completely. The flight back to the main fleet took 6 hours. During that time, Kate wrote her report. But she did not write about the builders or the tests or the ancient legacy waiting for humanity. She wrote about surviving in a hostile environment and finding the crashed research ship. She wrote about the plague cure and how it would save the colonies. The other information was too important to put in a regular report. It needed to be shared carefully with the right people. Kate knew that if the wrong people learned about the builder's legacy, they would try to take it by force. They would fail the tests before they even began. When they reached the fleet, Kate was taken directly to General Adams. He was an old man who had spent his life fighting to protect humanity. He had sent Kate on this mission knowing she would probably die, but hoping she might succeed. "Kate," he said when she walked into his office, "I cannot believe you made it back alive. Tell me everything." Kate sat down and looked at the general. She had served under him for 5 years. She trusted him more than anyone else in the military. If anyone would understand what she had learned, it would be him. "Sir," she said, "what I am about to tell you will sound impossible. But everything I say is true. Humanity is being tested. We are being judged by forces we have never imagined. And our future depends on passing tests that will make my mission look easy." General Adams leaned forward in his chair. "Go on," Kate told him everything. She told him about the builders and their tests. She told him about the creatures of Zarian Prime and how they had been waiting for the right species. She told him about the ancient legacy that waited for humanity if they proved themselves worthy. When she finished, the general sat quietly for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "How many people know about this?" "Just you and me, sir." "Good, it needs to stay that way until we decide how to handle it. This kind of information could cause panic or give the wrong people dangerous ideas." Kate nodded. "What do we do now, sir?" General Adams stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the stars and thought about the future of humanity. "We prepare," he said finally. "We find the people who can pass these tests, we train them, we make them ready. And when the next test comes, we will be ready for it." Kate smiled. This was exactly what she had hoped he would say. "Where do we start?" "Sir, with you," the general said. "You are the first human to pass one of these tests. You are going to help us find others like you. You are going to help us prepare for whatever is coming next." Kate stood up and saluted. "Yes, sir, I am ready." As she left the general's office, Kate thought about her mission to Zarian Prime. She had gone there to save human colonies from a plague. She had succeeded in that goal, but she had also discovered something much more important. Humanity was not alone in the galaxy. They were part of something bigger and older and more amazing than they had ever imagined. The tests would be hard. Many people would fail, but some would succeed, and those who succeeded would help lead humanity to a future beyond their wildest dreams. Kate walked through the corridors of the ship, already planning her next mission. There were other test worlds out there, other trials waiting, other chances for humanity to prove themselves. She had entered the death world alone and conquered it. Now she would help her entire species do the same thing on a galactic scale. The real adventure was just beginning. Kate walked down the hill toward the research ship. As she got closer, she saw something that made her stop and stare. The ship was surrounded by bones. Thousands and thousands of bones arranged in perfect circles around the crashed vessel. But these were not the bones of creatures that had been killed and eaten. These bones were white and clean, like they had been placed there carefully. She walked between the circles of bones and noticed that they were arranged in patterns. The patterns looked like writing, but not human writing. It was like the bones were trying to tell her something, but she could not read the message. The research ship looked undamaged, even though it had crashed from space. The hull was intact and the doors were closed. According to the mission files, the ship should have been torn apart by scavengers within hours of crashing. But it looked like nothing had touched it. Kate reached the ship's main door and pressed the emergency open button. The door slid open with a soft hiss. She stepped inside and turned on her flashlight. The ship was dark and quiet, but she could hear the hum of emergency power still running. She made her way to the bridge where the main computers were located. The ship's captain was still sitting in his chair, but he was not alive. His body was perfectly preserved, like he had just died yesterday, even though the ship had been here for weeks. Kate checked the other crew members. All dead, but all perfectly preserved. They did not look like they had been killed by violence or disease. They looked like they had just gone to sleep and never woken up. She sat down at the main computer and started looking through the ship's records. What she found made her understand everything that it had hand on. Zarian Prime, the research ship, had been studying the alien plague that was killing people on human colonies, but they had discovered something incredible. The plague was not a natural disease. It was a test. A test created by an ancient alien race to see which species in the galaxy was strong enough to survive and grow. The ship's scientists had found records of this ancient race on dozens of planets. They called themselves the Builders. They had created testing grounds throughout the galaxy millions of years ago. Then they had disappeared, leaving their tests behind for other species to find. Zarian Prime was one of these testing grounds, the most dangerous one. It was designed to test a species' ability to survive impossible conditions. But it was not just about surviving. It was about surviving without losing what made the species special. Kate read through the ship's logs and learned the truth about the human teams that had come before her. The planet had a strange effect on minds. It made people more aggressive and more suspicious. It brought out the worst parts of human nature and made them stronger. Most humans who came to the planet were overwhelmed by these feelings. They became paranoid and violent. They stopped trusting each other and started fighting among themselves. The planet's creatures stayed away and let the humans destroy themselves. But Kate was different. She was feeling the same effects as the other humans, but she was not being controlled by them. She was using the aggressive feelings to make herself stronger and more determined. She was turning the planet's test into her own advantage. The ship's computer had been running tests on the planet's effects. It had discovered that Zarian Prime was looking for a specific type of mind. A mind that could be aggressive when needed, but also calm and controlled. A mind that could face impossible danger without losing its humanity. Kate was that type of mind. She was passing the test that had been designed by the Builders millions of years ago. She found the data about the alien plague that she had come to collect. The plague was another test created by the Builders. It was designed to make species work together to survive. The cure was not a medicine or a weapon, it was cooperation. Species that learned to help each other would survive the plague. Species that fought each other would die. Kate downloaded all the data onto her storage device. She now had everything she needed to save the human colonies. But she also had something much more important. She had proof that humanity was special. Proof that humans had qualities that other species did not have. As she finished downloading the data, Kate heard a sound from outside the ship. She looked out the window and saw something amazing. The creatures of Zarian Prime were gathering around the ship. Not to attack, but to watch. There were hundreds of them. Shadow cats and metal spiders and void stalkers and creatures she had never seen before. They were all sitting quietly in the bone circles, watching the ship like they were waiting for something. Kate walked outside and stood in front of the gathered creatures. They all looked at her with what seemed like respect. Some of them bowed their heads like the void stalker had done. Others made soft sounds that seemed like welcome greetings. Then Kate heard a voice in her mind. Not just one voice, but many voices speaking together. The voices of all the creatures around her. You have passed the test, the voices said. You are the first of your kind to walk among us without losing yourself. You are the first to face our trials and remain human. Kate looked around at all the creatures. What test? What do you want from me? We are the guardians of this world, the voices said. We were created by the builders to test species that might be worthy of their inheritance. We have tested thousands of species over millions of years. Most fail, some succeed, but become something else in the process. Only you have succeeded while remaining true to your nature. What inheritance? Kate asked. The builders left behind great knowledge and great power. But they knew that this knowledge could be dangerous if given to the wrong species. So they created tests to find species that could use power wisely. Species that could be strong without being cruel. Species that could survive without losing their compassion. Kate felt a chill as she understood what the creatures were telling her. You are saying that humans have passed your test? Not all humans, the voices said. But you have shown us that humans have the potential we have been looking for. You have shown us that your species can be trusted with the Builder's legacy. The creatures around Kate began to glow with a soft light. The light spread from them to the bone circles and then to the ship. Kate felt the light wash over her and fill her with warmth and strength. You are the first, the voices said. But you will not be the last. Your species will find other testing grounds throughout the galaxy. They will face other trials. And if they prove themselves as you have proven yourself, they will inherit the greatest gift in the universe. What gift? Kate asked. The knowledge of how to travel between the stars without ships, the ability to heal any disease, the power to bring life to dead worlds, the wisdom to guide other species toward their own greatness. Kate felt overwhelmed by what she was hearing. Humanity was being offered the chance to become something greater than they had ever imagined. But the responsibility was enormous. Why us? She asked. What makes humans special? You never give up, the voices said. Other species become strong and then become comfortable. They stop trying to grow. But humans always want to be better than they are. Even when you face impossible odds, you keep fighting. Even when you are afraid, you move forward. This is the quality the builders were looking for. The light around Kate grew brighter. She felt like she was being transformed into something new while still remaining herself. She was becoming the bridge between humanity and the ancient legacy of the builders. Go back to your people, the voices said. Tell them what you have learned. Prepare them for the trials that are coming. Help them become worthy of the gift they will receive. Kate nodded. She had come to Zarian Prime to save human colonies from a plague. She was leaving with the knowledge that could make humanity the most powerful species in the galaxy. Kate woke up before dawn on her second day. The jungle was still quiet around her cave. She packed her gear and ate a quick breakfast. According to her map, she was halfway to the crash site. She was making much better time than anyone had expected. As she left the cave, Kate noticed something strange. The ground around her sleeping place was covered with gifts. Not human gifts, but things that the jungle creatures had left for her. Shiny stones, colorful feathers, pieces of metal that looked like they had been carefully shaped. Even some fresh fruit that smelled good. Kate picked up one of the stones. It was smooth and warm and had strange markings on it. She had never seen anything like it. She looked around the clearing and saw eyes watching her from the trees. Dozens of eyes belonging to creatures she could not see clearly. They were all watching her, but staying far away. She put the stone in her pocket and started walking. The path was even clearer today than it had been yesterday. Branches had been cut back. Rocks had been moved out of the way. Dangerous holes had been filled in with dirt and leaves. Something was helping her reach the crash site. After 2 hours of walking, Kate came to a place that made her stop and stare. It was a clearing where a battle had been fought. But not a battle between humans and creatures. A battle between humans and humans. She could see the evidence everywhere. There were pieces of human weapons scattered around the clearing. Plasma, rifle parts, armor plates, helmet pieces. But the weapons had not been broken by creature attacks. They had been broken by other human weapons. Kate found blast marks on the trees that could only have come from human plasma guns. She found the remains of a human camp. Sleeping bags torn apart, food supplies scattered and ruined. equipment smashed and broken. But again, this was not the work of jungle creatures. Humans had done this to each other. Kate found a message scratched into a tree trunk. It was written in human letters. Day 4. Cannot trust anyone. Johnson tried to kill me last night. Martinez is acting strange. Something is wrong with our minds? The planet is doing something to us. Below that message, someone else had written, Day 5. They are all against me. I can hear them talking about me when they think I am sleeping. I will kill them before they kill me. Kate felt cold as she read the messages. The human teams had not been killed by the planet's creatures. They had been driven crazy and killed each other, but why? What had made them lose their minds? She continued walking and found more evidence of human madness. She found places where humans had built traps to catch other humans. She found weapons that had been hidden to ambush other team members. She found graves where humans had buried other humans after killing them. But the strangest thing was that through all of this human violence, the planet's creatures had just watched. Kate found tracks showing that predators had been close to the human camps, but they had not attacked. They had stayed away and let the humans destroy themselves. Kate was thinking about this when she heard a sound that made her blood freeze. It was a roar that shook the ground under her feet. She looked up and saw something that should not exist. It was a creature that was half real and half shadow. Its body kept changing from solid to smoke and back again. Its eyes were holes in reality that seemed to go on forever. This was a Void Stalker, the most dangerous creature on Zarian Prime. The mission files said that a Void Stalker could kill a team of 20 soldiers in minutes. It could appear and disappear anywhere it wanted. It could reach through solid walls to grab its prey. Nothing could hide from it, and nothing could kill it. The Void Stalker materialized in front of Kate. It was bigger than a house and had claws that looked like they could cut through anything. Its mouth was full of teeth that were each as long as Kate's arm. When it breathed, the air around it turned cold and dark. Kate reached for her plasma rifle, but she knew it would not help. The mission file said that human weapons could not hurt a Void Stalker. It existed in too many dimensions at once for bullets or energy blasts to hit it properly. The creature looked down at Kate with its impossible eyes. She looked back at it and felt something strange. She was not afraid. She should have been terrified. She should have been running or screaming or begging for her life. Instead, she felt calm. She felt like she belonged here. The Void Stalker tilted its massive head to one side. It seemed confused. Kate could see intelligence in its eyes. This was not just a hungry animal. It was a thinking creature that was trying to understand something. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then something amazing happened. The Void Stalker lowered its head. It bent its neck and looked down at the ground like it was bowing to Kate, like it was showing respect to someone more powerful than itself. Kate took a step forward. The Void Stalker did not move. She took another step. Still nothing. She walked right up to the creature and reached out to touch it. Her hand passed through part of its body that was made of shadow, but when she touched the solid parts, she could feel warm skin under dark fur. The Void Stalker made a sound that was not quite a roar and not quite a purr. It was a sound of recognition, of acceptance. Then it began to fade away, disappearing back into whatever dimension it had come from. But before it vanished completely, Kate heard something that made her heart race. The creature spoke to her, not with words, but with thoughts that appeared in her mind. "You are the one we have been waiting for," the thought said. "You are the one who can walk between worlds without losing yourself. You are the one who brings order to chaos. We have been testing your kind for so long, and finally, you have come." The Void Stalker disappeared, leaving Kate alone in the clearing. She stood there trying to understand what had just happened. The most dangerous predator on the planet had not only refused to kill her, it had bowed to her. And it had spoken to her like she was someone important. Kate continued walking toward the crash site. But now she was asking herself new questions. What did the Void Stalker mean about testing her kind? How long had they been waiting? And what made her different from all the other humans who had come to this planet? As she walked, Kate began to notice other things. The jungle around her was changing. The plants were growing in more organized patterns. The animal sounds were becoming more like music than random noise. Even the air seemed cleaner and easier to breathe. It was like her presence on the planet was making everything better, like she was bringing order to a world that had been chaotic and wild. But how was that possible? She was just one person with basic weapons and survival gear. Kate reached the top of a hill and looked down at the valley below. There, sitting in a crater surrounded by broken trees, was the research ship she had come to find. She had made it. She had crossed the most dangerous planet in the galaxy in just 2 days, but as she started down the hill toward the ship, Kate realized that finding the crashed vessel was not the end of her mission. It was just the beginning. Something much bigger was happening here, and she was right in the middle of it. The creatures of Zarian Prime had been waiting for her. They had been testing humans for a long time, and she was the first one to pass their test. But what did that mean? What did they want from her? Kate walked toward the research ship, knowing that the answers to her questions were waiting for her inside. She was about to discover why she was different from every other human who had ever lived. Kate had been walking for 6 hours when she realized something was wrong. The jungle around her was too quiet. She stopped and listened. No birds singing, no insects buzzing, no animals moving through the trees. Just the sound of her own breathing and her boots on the bone-covered ground. She knelt down and picked up one of the bones. It was bigger than her arm and had teeth marks on it. Something with very big teeth had been eating here, but the bone was old and dry. Nothing had been killed here for a long time. Kate stood up and looked around. According to the mission files, this jungle should be full of creatures trying to kill her. Shadow cats that could disappear and reappear anywhere. Metal spiders the size of cars. Plants that could grab and eat a full-grown man in seconds. But she had not seen any of them. She started walking again. The path was easy to follow because nothing was blocking her way. Branches that should have been hanging down were pushed aside. Vines that should have been growing across the trail were cut or broken. It was like something big had cleared the path for her. After another hour, Kate found her first sign of the creatures that lived here. It was a feeding ground where some large animal had been eating. The ground was torn up and covered with blood that was still wet. Pieces of meat were scattered around like someone had been interrupted during dinner. But whatever had been eating here was gone. Kate checked her map. She was making good time toward the crash site. Too good. She should have been fighting for every step. She should have been hiding from predators and climbing over fallen trees. Instead, she was walking through the jungle like she was taking a walk in a park. She came to a river that ran red like blood. The water looked thick and moved slowly. According to her map, she needed to cross it to reach the crash site. Kate looked for a place to cross safely. The river was not deep, but she did not want to find out what was living in the red water. As she walked along the bank, she saw something that made her stop. There were tracks in the mud by the water, big tracks with claws longer than her fingers. The tracks came down to the water, but they did not go in. Instead, they turned and walked away from the river, all of them. Like whatever made the tracks had been scared away from the water. Kate followed the tracks backward. They led to a pile of rocks that looked like they had been stacked up to make a wall. Behind the wall, she found bones, lots of bones. But these bones were different from the ones on the jungle floor. These bones were arranged in patterns. Like someone had been making pictures with them. She looked closer at the bone patterns. They showed stick figures of humans. But the humans in the pictures were not being eaten or killed. They were standing over other creatures. Big creatures with claws and teeth. The humans in the bone pictures looked like they were winning. Kate felt cold. Someone had been here before her. Someone had fought the creatures of this planet and won. But who? The mission file said no one had ever come back from Zarian Prime alive. She found more bone pictures as she followed the tracks. They told a story, humans coming to the planet. Humans fighting the creatures, humans winning, but the last picture was different. It showed humans fighting each other. Humans killing humans while the creatures watched from far away. Kate understood now. The teams that had come before her had not been killed by the planet's creatures. They had killed each other, but why? She heard a sound behind her and turned around. Standing at the edge of the clearing was the biggest cat she had ever seen. It was black as night with silver stripes and eyes that glowed like stars. Its teeth were as long as knives and its claws could tear through metal. This was a shadow cat, one of the most dangerous predators on the planet. Kate reached for her plasma rifle, but the cat did not attack. It just stood there watching her. Its head was low and its ears were back. It looked like it was afraid of her. They stared at each other for a long moment. Kate had faced down charging bears and angry wolves back on Earth. She knew how to read the body language of predators. This cat was not getting ready to attack. It was getting ready to run away. The cat took a step backward, then another. Then it turned and disappeared into the jungle without making a sound. Kate stood in the clearing, trying to understand what had just happened. The most dangerous predator on the planet had been afraid of her, not her weapons. Not her armor, her. It had looked at her and decided she was too dangerous to fight. She continued walking toward the crash site. As the day went on, she saw more creatures. A pack of metal spiders the size of dogs watched her from the trees but did not come down. A snake as thick as a tree trunk slithered away when she got close. Even the plants seemed to lean away from her as she passed. By evening, Kate had traveled farther than any human team had ever gone on Zarian Prime. She had seen dozens of the planet's deadliest creatures, and none of them had attacked her. They had all run away. She made camp in a cave that looked like it had been recently abandoned. There were claw marks on the walls and the smell of a large animal, but whatever had been living here was gone. Kate set up her sleeping bag and ate some of her food. She was tired but not hurt. She was making better time than she had hoped. As she lay down to sleep, Kate heard sounds from the jungle. Growls and roars and screams. The creatures were still out there, but they were not coming near her cave. They were staying far away. Kate closed her eyes and tried to sleep. She did not understand why the creatures were afraid of her, but she was grateful. Tomorrow she would reach the crash site. Tomorrow she would get the data that could save millions of lives. But deep in her mind, a small voice was asking questions. Why were the creatures afraid of her? What made her different from all the other humans who had come to this planet? And why did she feel like she belonged here in this place of death and danger? Kate pushed the questions away and tried to sleep. She had a job to do. She would think about the strange things later. Right now, she needed to rest. Around her cave, the creatures of Zarian Prime kept their distance. They did not understand why they were afraid of the small human. They just knew that something about her made them want to hide. Something that told them she was more dangerous than anything they had ever faced. Kate slept peacefully while the deadliest predators in the galaxy cowered in fear. Kate Morrison sat in the metal chair and looked at the mission file one more time. The words on the screen made her stomach feel cold. Zarian Prime was a death world. No one who went there came back alive. 20 soldiers had tried before her. All dead. 10 soldiers had tried the mission before that. All dead. 5 soldiers had tried before that. All dead. She closed the file and looked up at Commander Blake. He was a big man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had sent too many good people to die on impossible missions. You can still change your mind, Kate, he said. No one will think less of you. This mission has killed every person we have sent. Kate stood up and picked up her gear bag. It was heavy with survival tools and weapons. Someone has to do it, sir. The research ship has information we need. Without it, the plague will kill millions of people in our colonies. Blake nodded slowly. The ship crashed in the worst part of Zarian Prime. The creatures there are bigger and meaner than anything we have ever seen. The plants eat meat. The air is poison. Even the rocks are sharp enough to cut through metal. I understand, sir. Do you? Kate, this planet has killed trained soldiers with the best weapons we have. It has killed teams of 20 people working together. You are going alone with basic gear? Kate looked at Blake and smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile she wore before every impossible fight. Maybe that is why the teams failed, sir. Too many people make too much noise. Too many weapons make you think you are safe when you are not. Blake watched her for a long moment. Kate Morrison was not the biggest soldier or the strongest. She was not the fastest or the smartest. But she was the one who never gave up. When other soldiers ran away, Kate ran toward the danger. When other soldiers said something was impossible, Kate found a way to do it. That was why they called her Iron Kate. The drop pod will take you down to the planet's surface, Blake said. You will have 3 days to reach the crash site, get the data, and make it to the pickup zone. If you are not there in 3 days, we leave without you. I will be there, sir. Kate walked to the drop pod bay. The pod was small and looked like a metal egg. It would protect her during the trip down to the planet, but just barely. She climbed inside and strapped herself in. The seat was hard and uncomfortable. The walls were covered with buttons and lights that she did not understand. Technician named Roy checked her equipment one last time. Plasma rifle, check. Survival kit, check. Emergency beacon, check. 3 days of food and water, check. He looked at her with worried eyes. Kate, I worked on the gear for the last team that went down there. We found pieces of their weapons scattered across 5 miles of jungle. Whatever killed them was big enough to bite through military armor. Thanks for the warning, Roy. I am serious, Kate. This is not like your other missions. This planet is different. It is like the whole world wants to kill anything that lands on it. Kate nodded. I know. That is why I'm going alone. A team draws attention. One person can hide. Roy sealed the pod door. Kate was alone in the dark metal space. She could hear the ship's engines humming around her. Then she felt the pod drop. Away from the ship. She was falling towards Zarian Prime. The trip down took 2 hours. Kate spent the time checking her gear and thinking about the mission. The research ship had been studying the alien plague that was killing people on 3 different colonies. The ship had found something important and was bringing it back to Earth when it crashed on Zarian Prime. Now Kate had to go get it. The pod started to shake as it hit the planet's atmosphere. Kate could see through the small window that the sky was red like blood. Lightning flashed in the distance. The ground below looked like a nightmare. Black mountains rose up like teeth. Red rivers flowed between them. And everywhere she looked, she saw jungle that was too green and too thick. The pod hit the jungle canopy and crashed through branches that were as hard as steel. Kate was thrown around inside the pod like a toy. Her head hit the wall and she saw stars. The pod bounced off a tree trunk and spun through the air. Then it hit the ground hard enough to make her teeth rattle. Kate waited for a moment to make sure she was not hurt badly. Her head was bleeding a little and her shoulder was sore, but she could move. She checked her gear. The plasma rifle was okay. The survival kit was okay. She was ready. She opened the pod door and stepped out onto Zarian Prime. The first thing she noticed was the smell. The air smelled like metal and blood and something else that made her want to run away. The second thing she noticed was the sound. The jungle was full of noises that did not sound like any animal she knew. Growls and hisses and clicks that made her skin crawl. The third thing she noticed was the silence. As soon as she stepped out of the pod, all the animal sounds stopped. The jungle became quiet like a graveyard. Kate had been in enough dangerous places to know that silence was often worse than noise. She looked around. The trees were black and had branches that looked like swords. The ground was covered with bones from animals she did not recognize. In the distance, she could see mountains that looked like they were made of broken glass. Kate picked up her gear and started walking toward the crash site. She had 3 days to cross 300 miles of the most dangerous land in the galaxy. She had done impossible things before. She would do this too. Behind her, deep in the jungle, something was watching. Something big and hungry and mean. But for the first time in its life, it was afraid to attack. It did not know why. It just knew that the small human walking through its territory was different from all the others. This one was dangerous in a way it did not understand. Kate Morrison walked into the Deathworld alone, and every creature that saw her felt something they had never felt before.